Hardwood. Tim Doyle back behind the bar as the Michigan Wolverines. They seem to be the darlings of the 16 teams remaining in the NCAA tournament. That, of course, comes after a plane crash and wild run through the Big Ten tournament. It hasn't been all sunshine and roses, though, for John Beilein's crew. Here's what the head coach told his team after losing to Ohio State earlier this season.
I think at that moment, and if I'm recalling this correctly, that was where the coaches, all of us, gave everyone and each other like a bit of a speech about we all had more in us. I mean, even the walk-ons that do not play. You have to practice harder. You never talk in practice. We need. I know there was a Super Bowl catch by, and I have like his name, Edelman. Is that how you say his name, Edelman? Right? That was incredible, that we talked about the next day, that there was outliers on this team that we don't know who they are, but they're not going to come forward if we don't really work, and that everybody could give a little bit more, and the sum of all those parts would be enough because we were so close. The difference isn't much, guys, but if you all give a little bit more, right? And the point with the Super Bowl catch was that Edelman didn't, he just made that, he willed that catch. And we have to will stuff to happen, and you have to work hard. And I really stress the outlier things at that time too, and all our staff did. And when you have great kids to work with, they'll believe you and they trust you.
We'll give Coach Beilein a pass. He was busy in January and February. Hell, he's always busy recruiting. It's Julian Edelman, Coach Beilein. But regardless, do you agree with his philosophy that this particular Michigan team has to will things to happen to reach its full potential?
It's an interesting soundbite. I'm going to say no.
Okay.
And John Beilein, I always stress this point whenever I talk about him. He's never been an assistant coach, ever, his whole life. A head coach in high school, then to Lemoyne, to Canisius, to Richmond, to West Virginia, to Michigan. Right? He's always been a head coach. This team was brought together by adversity. And I've kid about the plane situation, but the more and more I read about it, the more serious that really was. And we all know that your best comes out for some when you go through that adversity. People respond differently. Right. But some people are able to really come to their best, like New Yorkers during 9/11. I was out there, and really that brought the best out of people as far as giving a little bit extra. And I think this Michigan team has really brought the best every single game. Diving on loose balls, overcoming adversity, not worrying about falling behind, doing just enough to come away with wins. And I believe that's all from the plane crash.
Yeah.
And, this is a ride or die type of team. We all knew they had the potential. Obviously, it's Zach Irvin and Derek Walton Jr. They had talent there, guys that were experienced and been around the block. They were not maximizing it. And maybe that's what Beilein was trying to say. And they needed that significant event to kind of say, we need to be doing a little bit more out on the basketball court. And they're on a magical ride right now. I'm not picking them against Oregon, but I think that's dumb on my behalf.
You've had Oregon since the jump, but
so what do you do?
I like you. Maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but I thought the magical run would come to an end because I thought after that run through the Big Ten tournament, you just want to keep playing. You don't want to take days off. Just keep the momentum rolling. But the fact that they've been able to take the time between the Big Ten tournament, roll through Oklahoma State and Louisville.
They played unbelievable against Oklahoma State. I think if they played Oklahoma State maybe 10 times, they lose 8. But that was one of those games where they could not miss in the second half. And they still only won that game life and death by a point. They were a 2.5-point favorite. They got killed on the backboards. Oklahoma State had their way, but they just did enough. And then against Louisville, I thought that was just a bad matchup.
Yeah.
Louisville and Lane, they're going to find shooters. They're going to disrupt them. Beilein's so hard to prepare for in such short rest. Whenever he wins a game, the second game, he is deadly. And that the history proves that way because they run so much different stuff. But yeah, I thought Oklahoma State was going to knock them off in the first round, but they have pulled rabbit out of the hat after rabbit out of the hat. And I think that's all that bonding moment that was. Thank God they were able to survive that plane crash.
Well, we teased it there a little bit, maybe gave up a little of what Tim is going to say later. But we will run through your picks for the Midwest region in Kansas City, Missouri, and find out who you think is going to come out of that 4-team tournament and make it to Phoenix for the Final Four.